Ladies and gentlemen, this is the 12th and final round.
Right hand, Golovkin steps in and down he goes again. Unbelievable. Mayweather makes him pay. What a rookie mistake. A sensational left hook by De La Hoya.
It's facts. I'm the best. You know what I mean? Sometimes I don't want to believe it myself, but it's the truth. I'm the best. I'm going to show you how great I am.
From Southern California, this is the Last Round Podcast.
Welcome back to another edition of the Last Round Boxing Podcast. Thank you again for joining us. Before we kind of jump into the topics of the last couple weeks and the upcoming weeks or so, don't forget to subscribe on YouTube, youtube.com/@the-last-round-boxing-podcast. The more subscriptions we get there, obviously, the better that channel does. Also, if you're on Spotify, just hit that follow button, especially if you're a constant or a consistent or a regular listener. Just hit the follow button on Spotify and obviously any other podcast platform. I need to start getting used to saying it at the beginning of each episode. I usually say it at the end. But jumping straight back into it, the news of the last week or so. David Benavidez stops Gilberto Zurdo Ramirez in Las Vegas on a PBC on Amazon Prime pay-per-view. Benavidez improves to 32-0 with 26 knockouts with a TKO result in round 6 against Ramirez. This was a fight contested at the cruiserweight classification. So Benavidez is now correct me if I'm wrong too, but this is what I had on my notes, the WBA and WBO cruiserweight champion. Is that correct?
Yep.
So let me kind of give you my initial thought process on this. When this fight was made, I liked it. I liked that Benavidez was taking this challenge and this new weight class and all that. Because I thought Zurdo, he's a good fighter. He's shown that he's, formidable. And then he was obviously a world champ at the classification at the weight class. So I liked it. I could see why people thought Benavidez was the favorite, but I really thought that Zurdo, and it's not that Zurdo didn't have any moments. He did have any moments. It's just, the PBC on Prime commentary team, obviously Benavidez is their guy. So, he's going to get a little bit more of the rub during the broadcast. I guess it happens, with any type of broadcast that's associated with any type of promoter. Makes sense, right? We've seen it and we're going to continue to see it typically. But I don't know. There was a part of me that I thought Zurdo was at least not going to get stopped. But I was very surprised that Benavidez was able to kind of carry that power, from essentially 168 and going up. Because I think he weighed just under 200 pounds, like 198, 199, something like that. I thought Ramirez was gonna. I didn't think Ramirez was gonna get stopped. Is pretty much my gripe here. I thought if he got stopped, it would have been in the later rounds. But he obviously had some type of injury with his eye and his orbital bone. And you could see it right there at the conclusion of the fight. And it just, when you can't see and you kind of feel that, okay, something's wrong with my eye and my orbital and your orbital bone and my eye is closed, you kind of get, I don't want to say the word scared, that's not the word scared, but you kind of get concerned, right? Like, hey, if I keep going and he keeps punching me in this area, I could lose my eyesight. I can lose my eye. That crosses your mind. So, he just kind of took the knee and the referee saw it, and you can see kind of Zurdo relaying, hey, I got an issue here. I got an issue with my eye. Take the safe route. I don't think anybody blames him there, but Benavidez showed he still has the hand speed at almost 200 pounds and the power against a guy in Ramirez who's been at that weight class for a little bit now and who's naturally a bigger guy. What do you think? What do you think about the fight, and what do you think about the result?
I kind of feel bad saying it because obviously we didn't do a show before the fight, so it's kind of like an after timer. But I thought that he would win, to be honest with you. I just thought that for me, Zurdo's only really had like a couple of like really, really kind of like big fights where I've watched him and thought like, oh, wow, like, you've got a good boxing IQ, you put punches together well, because he's always been a little bit of like a weight bully, I've thought. I mean, the fact that he's done pretty much the similar, he's come up from like, middleweight when he was like under top rank, I think it was, and then come all the way up here to cruiserweight. They've kind of had the same trajectory. So when I thought they were going in with each other, I was like, well, it's not like he's jumped up and he's fighting like, Benavidez or someone like that. They both had the same sort of thing about, being the bigger guy, but squeezing themselves down. And then when people were talking about the power, like you touched on, whether is it going to show, but I thought he would actually maybe have either the same or even better power because he's not starving himself. He's actually got time to like fill out. And then I think it would more have been just the fact of how long has he been at that weight. And like he was kind of saying in one of the interviews before the fight, he said he thought that he would be, stronger, faster, better because of the fact that like, he's in camp and he's pretty much going to fight at the same weight. He doesn't have to like boil himself down to like 168, 175. And then fight, and obviously you kind of taking a little bit out of the tank, he's going to go in at like 100%. And I think we could see that straight away. The fact that like the fight was a lot more, I think, one-sided than all of us, thought it was going to be, moving up. He's had his fast hands and the hand speed seemed to be the difference. And then also he was kind of constantly doing the usual Benavidez pressure and then throwing in combinations. Like he would throw like 4-6 punches at once. And then Ramirez would kind of answer back with like 1 or maybe 2. And then boom, Benavidez is back on him. And you could just see like from quite early on that like Ramirez just didn't like that pressure. And he probably had never been in with somebody, as big as Benavidez, as strong, as powerful, and somebody that threw combinations like that, because it's unusual, right? When the bigger guys don't throw like that many punches compared to the guys of the lighter divisions. So he just stayed on his chest the whole time, attacking the body, attacking the head, and just kept forcing exchanges. And it was kind of like disrupting Zurdo's rhythm by the constant pressure. And you could just see how uncomfortable Zurdo was during the fight. Good fight. And kind of like you said, I thought he would have stopped him, but I thought it was going to be later. I was thinking like round 9, round 10, something like that.
No, I thought Benavidez made every impact he could out of that win and that victory. I think he did exactly everything he was supposed to do in that fight in order to make the biggest impact. He did it. He stopped the bigger guy, and he stopped him he stopped him in the 6th round. It's like we just talked about. We thought, okay, if one of them gets stopped, if Zurdo gets stopped, he'll get stopped in the later rounds. But he got stopped in the 6th. And like you said, the speed, it's just, naturally, right? It's rare that a fighter moves up in weight, especially if you look at it, like as I mentioned, Benavidez starting at 168 and he weighed, 30 pounds more for this fight? It was like 198, 199. Let's just call it 200. If you think about like when he started at 168, going all the way to 200 pounds, that's 30 pounds. That's 30 pounds. And he had the power still. He brought it up. It stayed with him. So him showing that he can beat the bigger guy who was a world champion at that classification is interesting. And he made, as I mentioned, the impact he made with that win, I think he couldn't have asked for more. I think the performance he put on is exactly what he couldn't have wished for a better performance, is what I'm saying. Because let me ask you this, like, let's just say Benavidez won. Like, well, he obviously did, but let's just say he won, but he won like a hard-fought split decision. How do you think the fight would be looked at if that happened?
I suppose it depends. Is it a hard-fought exciting split decision, or is it a boring, hugging, back and forth type of split decision win? I guess. I mean, I think we all thought it was going to be, one of the best fights of the year. Two big, come forward guys. I thought one of those where it's, who's going to take it going into the championship rounds. But yeah, Benavidez has shocked everybody and made it like super one-sided. I think one of the problems is I think maybe the power, the combinations, going upstairs and downstairs shocked Zurdo and made him become like kind of defensive. And then also his problem was he was going back in straight lines. And then Benavidez was just coming straight at him like the juggernaut. Like I've said before, when you watch him, it's kind of like having Terminator after you. He just keeps coming, and he has his hands low down, kind of encouraging you to throw something so then he can throw at the same time. And, Zurdo from about the round fourth onwards, he looked like he didn't want to be in there. He didn't have a plan B, a plan C. It was just the same thing over and over again. And it was kind of like, okay, unless Zurdo just lets one go and it catches Benavidez and, backs him up or knocks him out, it was a matter of time before, he was going to get knocked out.
Do you think that Zurdo, I don't want to use the word overlooked. That's not the right word that I'm looking for. But do you think that because Benavidez was coming up in weight, essentially, and he hasn't been at this weight class for, an extensive amount of time, and Zurdo has been he's a naturally bigger guy, and he's been fighting at, this weight class and the higher weight classes for a little bit longer. Do you think there was any part of Zurdo Ramirez that maybe underestimated Benavidez?
I don't know if it's underestimated or maybe he just overestimated himself.
He's probably better.
Like he's 48-1 going into that fight, and his only loss was to Dimitri Bivol,
which is, not. He lost to a really good, like one of the best fighters.
Right, he's lost to one of the best fighters, and that style that he lost to is completely different to how Benavidez fights. So I think it's maybe just one of those things where it's similar-ish in style, I guess, like Benavidez and Ramirez, both very come-forward fighters, pressure, a lot of enforcing yourself onto them because they're quite often being the bigger guy. And maybe Zurdo just thought, like, I'm bigger than him, like, I'm stronger than him, like, I think that, I'm just going to win this fight, doing my natural, normal thing that I've done for 48 fights, because he's not going to dance around and punch from distance and throw combinations and be in and out of range like Bivol does. And then when he got in there, he was completely wrong. He just thought, he was like, oh, wow, like this guy's a lot better than I expected. And I could see that, like when you watch Benavidez from the TV or just ringside, it's not super complicated, right? He just kind of like comes forward, enforces himself, and you probably
he's not hiding anything. He's not hiding anything from his opponent in terms of his style. He's showing you what he has every single time. You just can't beat it.
No, you just can't beat it. He's just that big, that powerful, and surprisingly quick, and he just throws combination after combination. It just wears you down. It's kind of like when everyone used to look at Joe Joyce and say, like, wow, he looks like he throws like underwater. Like, how did these fighters not get out of the way? But then when people have been in the ring with him, they're like, yeah, he's deceptively fast,
You mentioned Joe Joyce, and actually, this makes me want to ask you this question. The Juggernaut, right? It's for a long time, he was just running through guys. That's what they called him, the Juggernaut. There's nothing changing in his style. He was just going through, like his style was just like, I'm coming at you. That was it. And then eventually somebody figured him out. Was it Dubois? Who was the one to beat him?
His first loss was...
Wasn't it Dubois?
Was Zhilei Zhang?
Was it? Or was it Parker?
No, he beat Parker.
He beat Parker?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it was Zhilei Zhang.
He fought Dubois, though, right? I know I'm not misremembering.
He fought twice, yeah. And was it twice? Or he beat him the first time. His first loss was Zhilei Zhang. Then he lost to Zhang again. And then he fought Cash Ali and won. And then he lost to Derek Chisora and Hergovich.
Yes. Okay. That was it. That was it. Do you think that, and I'm trying to make this analogy, but do you think that because I think Benavidez is people thought that Joe Joyce was essentially unstoppable with that name, the Juggernaut. But do you think Benavidez has any type of similarities to Joe Joyce because of their similar styles in terms of they just keep coming at you and overwhelm you, and eventually somebody? I mean, you have to look at the layout of the opponents that he has in front of him. But do you think essentially Benavidez might experience the same thing that Joyce experienced, where eventually he runs into somebody who just stops him, and then it changes the course of his career after that?
I mean, I think he'll run into someone eventually that's gonna beat him. I actually thought somebody like a Caleb Plant, who obviously he beat on points, but I don't know whether that's just Plant had earned his money and didn't want it as much, because I think to beat someone like him, I think it's going to have to be someone who sticks and moves, like a Bivol, like a Caleb Plant, somebody like that, because so far anybody who gets in the ring and just tries to essentially like fight him, like street fight him, get in there and just throw down with him, he's just, like we said, he's too big, too strong, too many combinations. It looks like he's got a good chin. Yeah, he can just outman you essentially, like so far. And he's been in there with a few different styles, like David Morrell, beat him as well. Glavovkic, is it that how you pronounce it? I always get that wrong. Another guy that's pretty much like an old school boxer. I know he'd obviously retired, come back, so he wasn't fighting the best of the best, when he fought the Nail. But someone like a Bivol, if they decide to get it on. But
I mean, would he go back to 175 for Bivol?
See, I don't know now, because you're looking at like the cruiserweight division. Like, I don't really know, like in terms of like a Jai up a tire, but I think a Bivol fight would be bigger. We've already had Eddie Hearn that say that Jai doesn't even sell in Australia. Chislak, Papin, Vidal Riley, Ryan Rozecki, who's fighting Chris Billum-Smith, Mike Perez. Like, none of those are really like, get your mouth watering, right?
Right.
But then does he want to go back down again? Like you said, I think he weighed in at 196 pounds. Does he want to drop another 24 pounds to go back to 175?
Yeah.
Maybe for the money, or does he want to, say if Fabio, we're going to talk about it soon, I'm sure, but if Fabio Wardley gets the win against someone like a Daniel Dubois, he's not the biggest heavyweight in the world. Are we looking at, could he move up and snatch a little heavyweight title away from somebody?
I think the only time that Benavidez would move down is either for Bivol or Canelo, because he would get decent. Obviously, he would get a very, very nice payday for Canelo. Like he's been calling him out, and he did. We'll touch on it in a second, but he's been calling him out for a long time because they know, like, okay, he can pass the torch to me if I beat him. Essentially, that's how they look at it, right? Like, because right now, essentially, even though there's some people that have beat Canelo over the last couple of years, nobody's really grabbed that torch. Canelo's still the star, but I would guess he only moves down for Bivol and Canelo. Other than that, I don't think he moves down for anybody else. I just don't. And I think his money fight, I think Benavidez is totally open to it if you want me to speculate. The money fight that could, even if he loses, I think would still make him good. But the money fight that I think would be like a legacy fight for him would be against Usyk. I mean, you're fighting at 200 pounds. Usyk was a cruiserweight for a long time. He's not the biggest heavyweight in the world. You don't think that Benavidez Usyk is a possibility? I think so.
No, definitely. I'd like to throw another one in there, and they could do it at light, or maybe, I don't know whether this fighter would go up to cruiser for a one last fight, huge payday, amazing matchup in my opinion. Artur Beterbiev.
Oh.
the heavy
How
hand.
what is he, 40? How old is he?
Box Rec doesn't show his age. Why doesn't it show his age?
I mean, Beterbiev has shown that regardless of his age, he could still
41.
Yeah, regardless of his age, he could still be competitive. But you don't think those fights with Bivol took a lot out of him? I mean,
yeah, I mean he's 21.
He hasn't fought since then, right?
He hasn't fought since the rematch, and that's his only loss. Majority decision.
Right. For both of them, they haven't fought since, because Bivol hasn't fought either, right?
No, I don't believe so.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. Like they fought like essentially back to back, and they're just like, hey, we deserve an extended break because these were hard fights.
Bivol's due to fight at the end of the month against, is it Michael Effart? Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah. He's coming back. Well, that's why maybe Bivol's trying to prepare. Like, okay, maybe me and Benavidez can get it on. But
I think essentially he'll fight whoever Turkey chooses, whoever Turkey thinks is an amazing matchup in his brain, and he has that, billionaire money that he can just put on fantasy fights for results.
No, right. I mean, the only thing that's going to be concerned, like it is the broadcast politics and the promoter. Al Heyman and PBC on Prime. Pretty much broadcasting David Benavidez's fights. Other than that, I don't know. But I think Benavidez, I still think that him and Bivol is the best competitive fight for both of them at the moment. But Benavidez would have to go back down to 175 because I don't think, and maybe I'm wrong, but it's also because we haven't seen Bivol in a while, but I don't think Bivol would go up to cruiserweight. What do you think is the more likely outcome? 175 or 200?
I think it's the most realistic matchup as well. I think he's not the biggest guy in the world, but I think he may go up just for legacy. Fight Bivol, maybe. I know he spoke about going down before because he wasn't the biggest light heavy, but
that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
If you get the chance to go up, and maybe if he could, it's kind of like David Hay against Valuev, right?
Yeah.
I know there's not that much of a difference in height, but I think it would be that type of performance where Benavidez is going to be trying to catch him, trying to pressure him, and Bivol's just going to be, he'd want the biggest ring possible, dance around, and essentially box him from the outside. And why not give yourself the chance to become, 2-weight?
Yeah.
And the payday will probably be immense.
Yeah, absolutely. I've always thought that a Bivol-Benavidez fight, especially after Bivol beat Canelo, I've always thought, and of course that's not the moneymaker fight because Canelo's still the moneymaker even after a loss. But I've always thought that Bivol-Benavidez was the most competitive fight for both of them. Especially after, even though it probably took some time off of Bivol's career, but especially after Bivol fighting Beterbiev twice, I've always thought that a competitive matchup. I think it's a lot closer now. When you asked me I know we talked about it in past episodes, but in past episodes, in the past couple of years, I've always leaned Bivol. If him and Benavidez fought, I was like, oh, I'm going with Bivol. I think Bivol takes it. I think he just outboxes him, and Bivol has enough power in his boxing skills to keep you on your toes. Now I think it's a lot more competitive just because Benavidez is getting a lot more steam. And now, especially after going up to cruiserweight and beating a cruiserweight for the world championship, that just adds another feather to his cap. So I think the fight becomes a lot more competitive as of today, but I still would like to see that fight. And you notice how I haven't even like said that I want to see the Canelo fight because it's like it's not realistic. It's not realistic. When Benavidez was at 168, Canelo they were going to make that fight, but it's when he moved up, I was like, they're definitely not going to make that fight. And now that he moved up to cruiserweight, they're definitely not going to make that fight. I just don't see it. Canelo's already like, I mean, I get it, like Benavidez has built this support system and all that and this fan base. And they know if I fight Canelo, who's another Latin star, and I beat him, especially if I dominate him, I will get all the press and the media, and then all his fans and all his media will start following me. Because Benavidez does speak Spanish. He speaks Spanish and English, so he's bilingual. So it could work, right? But it's like Canelo fought at 175 how many times? Once?
Twice. Kovalev and Bivol.
Kovalev, yeah. Kovalev in 2019 and then Bivol, right? And then after that, he went back down. And he's been staying down in the 160 range, 168 for the last few fights. David Benavidez just fought at 200 pounds. I mean, I don't see it. And I don't think that I'm not going to go the route to say that Canelo's scared. I get that. And I want to get your opinion on this, but I know obviously that's the topic at hand. When if there's a certain fight that starts to get some steam, people are like, "Oh, so-and-so fighter's scared. They don't want to fight some." I don't think that's it. I think Canelo's just like, Canelo's he's 35, but he's an old soul. He's an old soul in boxing. He's got a lot of mileage on him. I mean, think about it. He's been over multiple eras of the sport, right? Fighting Matthew Hatton, Sugar Shane Mosley, Floyd Mayweather, Miguel Cotto, Triple G, a couple times, Kovalev. Like, I mean, when you're the star, right? When you're the biggest star in the sport, even when you fought a lot of killers and you won most of them, I mean, you lost a couple, but you won most of them. But when you're the biggest star in the sport, you have the most eyeballs. You're also going to have the most critics. So if the fight gets made, of course I'm going to watch it. But I just don't see it getting made. I think Canelo's already shown, I've already proven myself. And I think Canelo is gonna, and besides, he was at the fight, right? But he left before the main event. He was there to support his stablemate Jaime Munguia, who ironically he fought and beat in Vegas, and then Munguia subsequently started training with Eddie Reynoso in the Canelo gym. But he left right after the Munguia fight. And he didn't stay for the main event. So, I mean, what do you think? What do you think about the whole Canelo David Benavidez situation?
I mean, I think Canelo's made himself kind of clear, hasn't he? He doesn't want to fight him, and whether it's because Benavidez is just too big, or he has that thing about not really wanting to fight Mexicans, even though he's fought like Munguia, and obviously at the start of his career he fought other ones. So, unless Turkey wants to throw money around again and obviously might get that fight on for us, I don't really see where they both go. It's kind of like the only fight really left because obviously, Canelo's supposed to be fighting Umbili probably in September. And then, like we touched on, Benavidez probably has Bivol, they're kind of on the same trajectory with he's just fought, but Bivol's about to fight in, the same month. So they're kind of on the same path. But then after that, then where does Benavidez go? And after Umbili, where does Canelo go? Canelo's nearly going to be 36 in July.
Eubank Jr.
Right, yeah. I mean, that's what I've been saying for years, isn't it?
I mean, you're the one that's been saying that for a long time. And get Eubank back on the winning column, have him get back in the winning column, and have Canelo go to the UK, and they'll sell out a stadium together.
I mean, he posted today, and we retweeted it on our Twitter or X. He said that he's promotional free. Eubank
Right.
Jr.
I saw that.
Why not just throw some money around and get that fight done? It's like we've always said, if you're a world champion, why not actually travel the world and let people see you? Canelo will sell out straight away against Eubank Jr. because when does he go to the UK, and when do the UK boxing fans get to see him? Never.
Right.
So,
and it would be a spectacle. It would be a spectacle because the UK fans will show up for that, and Eubank Jr. obviously has the lineage and the fan base. And Canelo's never fought in the UK. I don't think he's ever fought in the UK. And the first time he fights in the UK, he fights at a huge stadium. I wouldn't mind seeing that. I mean, I get it. It's like, nobody wants to watch him fight Eubank Jr. as it won't be competitive. It's just like, well, look, he's the last star that. I mean, is there any other person in boxing right now? And I'm talking about I guess North America, global star too. You have Anthony Joshua, Tyson Fury, but they're not really known in the United States. They are known, but Canelo is known worldwide. He's the last true star. I mean, who else takes the reins from him, right?
Yeah, because we've touched on before, there's a big difference in there in, being social media famous like we've seen with Ryan. He may sell out stadiums now, but when he first hit the scene and, he was huge on Instagram and stuff like that, and they kept portraying him as this huge star, he didn't even sell out the Honda Center.
Right.
We've seen that. So,
well, the Benavidez fight, I mean, there was pictures that we saw from people who were there, and and then we saw they were offering tickets on public service websites that we saw and other event websites that we get emails from where they were offering free tickets for the Benavidez fight in Vegas, right? So, and I think the top of the arena was blacked out. Was curtained off.
The 100s and the 200s.
Yeah. So, I mean, does it come down to does that come down to more that Benavidez and Zurdo just aren't draws in the sport, or that just stuff in general, especially in the United States and especially in Las Vegas, has become just more expensive, and people just aren't traveling for stuff like that anymore?
I mean, I think it might be a combination of a little bit of that. Obviously, just the world we live in today is super expensive, so maybe people just don't have the money to throw around money on concert tickets and stuff. And
right.
And I think sometimes Benavidez just hasn't really been pushed. That's why I think we'll probably get some stick for saying this, but someone like an Eddie Hearn is good. He'll push you. If he'll promote you himself. He's the mouthpiece.
I can see that.
Like a WWE manager who's the mouthpiece for everyone. That's what Eddie Hearn is. But it works. When he took hold of Terence Crawford for a small period of time, and he was saying about how Top Rank hadn't promoted him properly. He should be such a big star, and I think Benavidez would have been like that. I think he would have been really good to have be the villain. He's the bad guy who's always knocking people out and stuff like that, because he's pretty good. He's been on the show. He's a good talker himself, but he just doesn't seem to have ever had that push, because if two giant Mexican fighters like them can't sell out the T-Mobile, which isn't huge, on Cinco de Mayo, there's something wrong, right?
Yeah. And Cinco de Mayo for the longest time has always been whoever has that weekend sells out that. De La Hoya, Chavez had it for a long time. Then Mayweather picked it up, was selling it out that weekend. Then Canelo took over, and Canelo was selling it out. And it's just the sports. But you also got to look at it too. We talked about Canelo crossing eras in terms of his fights. Canelo was fortunate enough to start and gained prominence when social media and mobile phones weren't as strong with content and apps as they are today. So he had a chance to be on HBO 24/7, that series, the Showtime All Access and other stuff where, because I mean, think about it like this, before social media apps and all that, what did people use for entertainment? Television, right? Just like, oh, that was considered your phone, your app. It's like, oh, the 24/7's on. Let me watch it. Mayweather became a huge star after 24/7. Like, blew him up. And Canelo, it helped him blow up too. Like, all these fighters, it helped them grow their brand. But it also because, like, everybody was concentrated on those points of entertainment, because it's like, oh, how many? Because I think one of the executives from Netflix, or there was like an actor or somebody who did like a Netflix show, or like a comedian or something. They were like on a podcast within the last several months or something, and they had a Netflix show, and they said that Netflix had told them after they sent them like the final edit, or one of the final edits of their show or their episode or their movie or whatever it was, Netflix had said, hey, we need you to kind of make some changes here, because you need to essentially I think it was what's his name, Ben Affleck. I think it was Ben Affleck. He had said that Netflix had said that we need you guys to constantly remind the viewer what the topic is of the program, because people are always on their phones while they're watching, so they're distracted. So if you look at it like that, like, that's what's happening now. Like, there's just so many forms of entertainment where people could be distracted, especially on phones. I mean, it's like a mobile device that you can carry around anywhere you are, right? Like, how many times, like, do you sit in front of a TV and you're just sitting there and you're watching something like, oh, this is cool, like, it's entertaining, but then you pull out your phone? It happens. It happens. That's just the world, how the world works now. So I think that has had an effect on producing stars in boxing in general, in across entertainment and sports, but in boxing, one, because a lot of TV companies have gotten out of the sport because they didn't find it profitable. That obviously doesn't help. But another is content is king, and content right now is everywhere. So, it's hard, man. Like, eventually a fighter will take over as like, okay, this he's transcended the sport. Like, he's a star, global star. But right now there's nobody there right now to take the throne. I don't see anything. But we're just going to have to wait and see what happens. But I don't think... let's end it with this. Let's end this topic with this. What is a percentage chance that Canelo Benavidez happens, and then Canelo Bivol, and then Canelo Usyk? Let's start with Canelo... Benavidez Bivol. I'm sorry.
I think 60-70%. I think it just kind of makes sense. In terms of like trajectory of like they're on the same sort of fight path. It's a doable weight. Bivol gets the chance to maybe move up to cruiserweight, have a chance at 2-weight, and then he can retire essentially.
Right.
I mean, we know he's struggled to get fights pretty much his entire career because he's not the huge name, and the Saudis coming in has done something for someone like him, wonders. Being able to throw so much money around to the Benavidez fight twice, because he was always very, very good, but it doesn't bring him a lot to the table in terms of money or fans. So it was always kind of like lose-lose for somebody like, I was in the gym with his manager and the team and stuff, and they told us that they'd offered. I think it was after the World Boxing Super Series when Callum Smith had all the titles, something like $5 million, I think, or a large amount of money to fight Bivol, and they turned it down, probably just knowing how good Bivol is.
Right. High risk, low reward.
Exactly. Yep.
Benavidez Canelo percentage.
I think that's low, dude. I think it's like you touched on. Canelo's got to the point now where he can pick and choose his fights, like he has done for many years. He'll probably fight Billy. Then eventually, I may be right, and he's going to fight like a Eubank Jr. in the UK.
I think
stadium fight,
and
then, dude, now we're scratching our heads to find him opponents. So he may just retire.
I mean, that in a way, like the fact that we're scratching our head to find a fighter, an opponent, just means. I mean, I don't think you could say that Canelo's like not fought killers over his career. The fact that we're like, it's hard to find him opponents. Yeah, because he's fought everybody over his era, like multiple eras. It's like, you gotta acknowledge the credit on that. It's like, there's always going to be critics, obviously, and that's who gets the most attention. But he's fought them all.
Like, I'll throw two up and coming names at you. And I don't know if he's going to even be around to fight them. Hamza Shiraz and Diego Pacheco are probably the people that we're looking at as the next super middleweights.
You know why I can see Shiraz?
Because of the salary.
Yes, and they're big fans. They're big fans of him, and they would love him to get that fight.
Like the, like the passing of the torch type thing. If Shiraz could do it, like if
but Shiraz would not cross over.
No. I mean, I've met him several times. He's a super nice guy. I remember saying,
but like you got to look at in North America, especially like the biggest fighters, like the most popular fighters, have always been, you look at Mayweather, Canelo, De La Hoya. I mean, would you even put like Miguel Cotto in that? I think Miguel Cotto was adjacent to like all them, but he had some popularity.
I could see him being like not as big, because I think Amir Khan was pretty goddamn big, because even Americans really liked him. But he'd be huge.
Ricky Hatton got big too.
I could see him being like a Amir Khan in terms of like the UK, and then the Middle Eastern, like Asian type of population.
Right. Yeah, I could see that.
But I don't know if he would. I mean, he trained over here for a year or so, didn't he? But Khan would turn up at all the events. I remember meeting him at a Golden Boy event at Fantasy Springs.
Yeah. He's everywhere. You got to give him the credit for that. So what's your percentage?
I think low for that one, dude. Like 50-50 or even like 40%. I think it's low.
I think like 25. Last one. Usyk, Benavidez. I think that one's higher. I think that one's higher than you think. I do think so. I'm not saying like happen in the next 6 months, but I'm just saying in general.
I think no, but just because I think Usyk will stick to kind of the plan that he's kind of already announced, right? Wasn't it like 3 more fights? Rico Verhoeven, the winner of this weekend of Fabio Wardley and Dubois, and then did he say that he would like to fight his fat friend one more time, a greedy belly, Tyson Fury?
Yeah,
or the winner of AJ and Fury, I believe. And I think he takes his career so seriously. I think he knows that that's maybe what he's got left, and he's done.
Probably, yeah. I mean, he's proven he has nothing else left to prove. Yeah,
they seem to be the ones that, like, unlike Americans and English people, who we kind of come back because we've got one more payday. Like, if you look at a lot of the fighters, like him and like Khabib and people like that from that Eastern Bloc, like they're kind of, when they're done, they're done. Take the career very seriously.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's breeze through the rest of the time because we went 45 minutes on that topic. The monster Naoya Inoue retains his undisputed super bantamweight titles via unanimous decision in a very high-skilled matchup against Junto Nakatani at the Tokyo Dome this past weekend. This was a highly competitive fight, and everybody was looking forward to it. What was your reaction? And it was at Tokyo Dome, essentially sold out. I mean, that dude's a star over there, man. He's a superstar.
Yeah, I thought it was a slow start, and then Nakatani was kind of like building up momentum until obviously they had the kind of like the head clash. And then after that, I think Inoue kind of saw that Nakatani wasn't the same, or Nakatani just couldn't kind of like pull his head back into the game a bit, and then Inoue just kind of ran away with it. Inoue, didn't just win. He kind of showed us all, why he's so elite, controlled the early rounds, even though I thought Nakatani maybe did better, or it was kind of like a draw, maybe going into like the middle-ish part of the championship rounds later, survived some pressure, and then kind of finished like a champion, just kind of like finished and showed us like why he is who he is.
Pound for pound, man. Though,
maybe my expectations was too much. I was a little bit let down. I thought it was going to be a little bit more fireworks.
That just shows that Nakatani's even though he lost, he showed that like, hey, I can hang.
Yeah, I mean, he showed obviously his durability, his heart to stay in it for 12 rounds.
Yeah.
And, maybe if they go away for a little bit, have a couple more fights, and then, maybe the roads will lead back to them fighting each other. But maybe it's just the fact that we built it up so much, being like boxing nerds and Twitter and everything else you watch, like my expectation levels are maybe just too high.
Right.
But it looked amazing. That's kind of like a dream to go to somewhere like Japan, right? Watch a fight over there. Kind of like a bucket list type of thing for...
At the Tokyo Dome, too. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, 55,000. I think the gate was 36 million or something.
He's a star, man. He's a star.
Something ridiculous, like 6th or 7th highest boxing gate of all time.
Yeah, he's a star, man. I'm telling you. He doesn't need to come over here. Like, we would love for him to come over here, but he doesn't need to. He's a superstar.
Not according to Twitter, Daniel.
Oh, come on.
According to Twitter. I can't remember who posted that, but they must be... Whoever posted that must be like living that down for the rest of their life.
No, I mean, like, if you look at it from a financial standpoint and like just him, the adulation that he's getting, he has it over there. He has it, And it's like, yeah, if you make it in the United States, like, it's huge. But Japan is... If for a lot of sports, especially Japan, and even just in general, like outside of sports, entertainment stuff like that, but Japan for a lot of sports, like for example, baseball. There's a lot of baseball players over here in the United States who, if they're not good enough to play over here, they go to Japan and they play over there because you can make a good living still over there. And then same thing with professional wrestling. If your opportunities kind of dry up over here, or you just want to change a pace, they go to Japan because Japan, in terms of pay, has a good market. So, yeah, he's a superstar over there, man. And it's like, it sucks because like there's a lot of people who don't know who he is over here, but you have to be a hardcore boxing fan to really know. And pound for pound, man, I've always thought he was number one just because of his activity, and he just keeps going up and up and up in weight classes, and he beats these people. He beats these guys. So, yeah, the monster keeps it going, man, at the Tokyo Dome in Japan. And also, I want to get your reaction. Connor Walker stopped Sam Eggington in round 10 this past weekend in a fight of the year candidate. So by the end of the year, this could be the fight of the year that we're looking back on. What do you think about that matchup and that result?
It was a great matchup. What did Tony Bellew call it? It was the English version of like Gatti Ward or something like that. He said quite a good comparison. It was back and forth. Conor Walker down on the cards, I think on all 3 cards, and then gets the knockout in the 10th. Stopped against the ropes. Referee jumps in, probably at the perfect time. But it was a great matchup, and it was something Conor Walker just seems to do. That's the second time I think he's done that, where he's been down on the cards and manages to pull out, a last-minute winner. So great fight, great way to start Saturday, because Saturday was just boxing all day. You had a Naoya Nakatani, the Conor Walker Eggington card, and then the Benavidez card. Just, unbelievable day on DAZN for the guys who want to sit in and watch the fights. Not good for the girlfriends and the wives, though.
Absolutely. And then I'll just go over this really quick. This weekend, the 9th of May from Manchester, Fabio Wardley versus Daniel Dubois. Wardley defends his WBO title in this heavyweight British showdown. So that I'm looking forward to that. I actually like this matchup. I think it's good. And I mean, I don't know. Who do you think is going to win? Give me your.
I was just trying to think. I knew you were going to ask that. That's a hard one.
That's a hard one. That's why I was just like, I was looking at it. I was like, this is a hard one. That's a good matchup. This is a really good matchup. I'm gonna go Wardley.
I was thinking the same, and I don't know why. Like, because the pedigree of Daniel Dubois, but he is beatable, isn't he? Like, he looked $1 million against AJ, but then he has other fights where he's just doesn't look as good, and then Wardley just seems to be able to soak up game plans and just come out and just so effective. Like, he was losing on the cards to Honey, and then managed to, out of nowhere, just knock him out, flatline him. Yeah, I think Wardley. Maybe it's similar, though. Like,
it's a close fight.
I think he might have to kind of survive the first few rounds because, Dubois kind of comes out, doesn't he, like a steam train. And if you can kind of weather those first few rounds, I think he's just so big and muscular that he probably gasses and, hasn't got the same output, probably doesn't have the same type of power. So I think Wardley might stop him around 5 or 6 rounds.
Really?
Dubois just comes out too fast and, can't maintain it.
I like the matchup, though. I think it's good. It looks good on paper, at least.
Well, just think, if Dubois wins it, he'll be 2-time world champion.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking right now.
Like, what, 25, 26?
25, mid-20s, yeah.
And then you got Fabio Wardley. Like, that's kind of his win to kind of cement himself as champion, right? Because he was, like, interim, elevated. So I think in your head, like, the next win kind of gives you it, kind of, I guess.
Right.
But then if you look at it for him, like, he could have taken just a gimme. Normally if you win the title, you get like you can pick a fight and then you have the mandatory. He went straight in with the biggest, hardest challenge going.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, that's true. That's totally true.
Crazy, really, when you think about it.
And then we'll cross the finish line here with the recent announcement of Errol Spence's return. The truth, Errol Spence returns for a fight against Tim Tszyu in Australia. I believe, I forgot when it was. Is it July?
July,
right? So Spence returns against Tszyu in Australia. I think that's a cool return. Tzew's got a fan base, especially down there. Australia is another location where you can make some money. So I can see why he's going down there. That makes sense to me. I'm really interested to see what Spence is, is he coming back to kind of get back into the groove to try to, build on his legacy, or is he just coming back to make some money? We haven't seen him since he's lost to Crawford's. Obviously he made a lot of money from that, and he's made a lot of money over his career. So, he's put in his time, but, I'm really interested to see what this return is about. Is it like a one-time thing and then he's going to be out again for like another 2 years or so? That's what I'm interested to see. But I like this matchup. I think it's a fun matchup. I would not be surprised if Tszyu pulls it off, especially having the crowd behind him in his home country, and Spence hasn't been active in several years now. Am I looking at it wrong?
No. So it's July 25th. It's actually the same day as Anthony Joshua against Prenga.
But that'll be what's the time difference?
Amazon Prime pay-per-view. So I don't know what PBC are doing, dude. Like that, the Benavidez one, like we touched on, it ended up being a good fight and a good card, but I don't think it did much in.
If you kind of read between the lines, right? Like there's been innuendos and reports, whether you want to believe them or not, that Amazon Prime doesn't really give them a budget, even though some people from the PBC side have said that they have given them a budget, but every fight essentially has been pay-per-view.
Yeah.
So, and if you kind of look at it this way, if Amazon Prime had a heavy investment into the PBC brand, you would think they would be promoting it a lot more, right? Because usually these fights, they promote them when it's pay-per-view, especially, they promote them like the week of or like a couple days leading up to the actual event. But if you go on the Amazon Prime or the Prime Sports or like on their social media handles, like unless you're there like a couple days before the event, you don't really see any promotion. So it makes sense, right? If you kind of speculate, it's like, well, if your broadcast partner isn't really like using all their platforms and the power of their company to really push you, then they obviously view the investment that they have with you as less significant than you think. Because if they had an extensive financial investment in this, you would think they would want something on a return, right? So they're like, hey, let's promote this because we want a return on the money we're putting in. And it doesn't seem, us just kind of guessing and kind of being a part of this boxing landscape for the last several years and seeing different sides. I mean, we've talked to people on and off the record about media deals, about TV, about promoters, about fighters, about contracts. We've talked to pretty much every type of personality. We've been to fights. We've been to fights backstage, covering press and this and that. We've been to gyms. So, kind of read between the lines there. So, I think everybody's just kind of slowly waiting like, hey, are some of these PBC fighters eventually just going to go to the Zone or Zuffa? Which probably isn't going to be that many, but because, they are on the older age side, but you just never know. Like, what do you think the Benavidez Zurdo fight did in pay-per-view buys? Get a guess.
I mean, if it didn't even sell out, like, dude, I would say something low, like 250,000.
You think it's that high? I don't even think it's that high.
I was kind of being generous, I guess, just because it was Cinco de Mayo. Like,
I don't even think it's that high. I don't even think it's that high. I think 250,000 would actually be. I mean, obviously, not knowing the financials, but I think 250,000 would actually be very in this day and age. I think that would actually be a very significant win for them.
Okay, so Benavidez is previous when he fought Morrell, 150,000. Caleb
That's
Plant,
just the reports, though, right? Where are these reports coming from? It's just like you just never know.
Caleb Plant, supposedly less than 100,000.
And that fight and Plant was more well known, right?
Okay, I'm going to half that.
That's what I'm saying. Like, see, that just kind of proves my point, or adds more fuel to my point. Is like Caleb Plant is a more well known fighter than David Morrell, and whoever's reporting those numbers is saying that the Morrell fight had a higher pay-per-view buy rate, which doesn't make sense to me because Plant's the bigger of the names, especially after Plant fought Canelo. I don't know. I just don't see, they get these numbers from these sources and they're like, oh, we'll report this, but it's just like, how do you trust these numbers? I mean, you're getting it from, certain sources, but how do you know they're all accurate? We don't know. just kind of guessing, right?
I mean, you have to, right? Because
you can say we just don't know. Yeah.
They never release them, so.
No. Yeah. Yeah. The only time they ever release him is like when they're really proud of it. I think the last one I remember being at least acknowledged was, I think, do you remember Canelo Chavez? I think they hit over 1 million buys, and I think Golden Boy did a press release for that because it was significant. I remember that. I was like, oh, okay, you're acknowledging the buy rate. So if you're acknowledging it, then you're happy. But 99% of the time, it's never acknowledged, and it's never said. So I don't know. Where's Rick Glazer when you need him, huh?
He's never on Twitter anymore.
Yeah, he always got the pay-per-view buy rate people riled up with his tweets about stuff like that. People were like, oh, where's Glazer at? We want to know his buy rate. We don't even know if he was true, but he got attention. So, yeah, what a crazy world this boxing world is, right? It always is and continues to be. But thank you again, guys, for listening to this week's episode of the Last Round Boxing Podcast. As I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, please subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/@thelast-round-boxing-podcast. Check us out and hit that subscribe button on there. It's free. It doesn't cost anything, and it definitely helps the algorithm and our stance in the YouTube channel and the YouTube platform. It definitely helps. Also on Spotify, hit that follow button. Please interact, leave some comments, like each of the episodes, videos, and all that. Please, that definitely helps us. As I mentioned, it's free. Doesn't cost you anything, but it gives us a lot of help on our side. We're trying to secure some guests in the next couple weeks, so hopefully we kind of give you guys some interesting interviews. So we're working on that. But before we sign off once again, Mike, go ahead and let them know where they can find us and follow us.
At The Last Round 12 on Instagram and Twitter. And be sure to join us next week. Hopefully we'll be back to review the big heavyweight fight that we spoke about.
It's coming. So for my co-host Michael Shepard, I'm Danny Z. This is The Last Round.
Thanks for supporting and listening to the show. Follow us at The Last Round 12 on social media. Rate, review, and subscribe. This is The Last Round Podcast.